Hey everyone, this is Lomi, and I wanted to take a little time to talk about a project I haven't shared much about here on YouTube. I've posted some pictures on Instagram, but that's pretty much been it. I think he made an appearance in one video. So, about 3 years ago, I decided to start making my own faceplate for Rhyllyn. I wanted it to be based on the artwork I have done of the character. I worked on the faceplate using 3D sculpting, all done in Blender, for, years. It was an on and off project. Anytime I had a few minutes I thought I could devote to it, I spent a little bit of time refining the shapes. Blender has a great feature that lets you put artwork in the background so that you can lay the model against it and make sure the shapes line up. It's also free, which makes a big difference. Last year, I finally had the initial faceplate printed by Shapeways. I had made the decision to switch to physical sculpting a long time ago, but it took me a bit to get around to it. Partly because I was nervous, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I had gotten to where, with the 3D model, I wasn't happy with the shape I was being able to get for the eyes, and I knew I didn't have the skill in 3D to do things like the ears or the head back or any kind of jointing. It's one thing to make a face shape out of a sphere that has a million little polygons on it, but trying to get working joint systems is way beyond my skill level, because in addition to being a novice sculptor, I am a novice 3D modeler, so I needed to learn something that was more tactile. So once the faceplate arrived, I started doing some cleanup work, shaping the eyes, and trying to get the print closer to what I had initially had in mind. Some of the stuff I had done in 3D didn't translate very well into the actual printed version. One example of that is that I had tried to make little eyebrow furrows in his forehead, and they just ended up looking really weird, so I ended up sanding those back out. I also wasn't able to make things like nostril recesses or the little tear ducts in the corners of the eyes the way that I wanted to using 3D. So I'm glad that I decided to switch over to doing physical sculpting, but I do like the idea of using 3D for that initial face because I'm not very good at fine details and I'm really bad at symmetry. So using 3D modeling for that does give me a small advantage. I had wanted to share some progress photos or videos showing everything I had done in 3D for this faceplate, but I used Blender on my desktop PC and that is on its way out. It doesn't work for exporting videos or anything anymore. Anything that's memory heavy, it just can't do. So I haven't been able to run Blender on it in a long time. There are a few photos of the 3D model on Instagram, and when I'm able to get Blender running again, I'll post some more photos of the original 3D sculpt version. I really wish that I was farther along with this project. I haven't had much to show for it for all the time that I've put into it. But after a while, once I unpacked the faceplate, I realized that if I didn't start talking about it now, it might be a few years before I have a chance to really show what I've been doing. And while I've tried to film things along the way, some of that stuff disappeared. I chalk that up to my PC slowly failing, and there's not really much I can do about that. But I'm starting to get the faceplate to a place I like. It's definitely not going to be perfect because this is my first time trying to make a doll, and it's a really big learning experience. But on the whole, I'm happy with the general look, so as long as I can keep building on that, I think it'll work out fine in the end. So I wanted to go with a faceplate mostly so that I would only have to do things like headbacks once. Like with the People 65 faceplate, I'm going to make the headback starting with the base of a clear plastic Christmas ornament. I'm really bad at symmetry, like I said, so starting on a round base makes things a lot easier for me. So I build up on top of this plastic thing, and it takes a while. Some of the earlier footage where I was using the epoxy clay, that was really early on in the process. That was actually late last summer, I think. Now I'm just trying to use up this clay that I got that I was using for Rhyllyn's modifications. One of the best parts of doing this for myself is that once I get to the point where I can cast the faceplate, I can cast a whole bunch of them, and I'll be able to paint them with different expressions, which is something I'm really looking forward to trying. I'll also be able to make some modified faceplates with closed eyes or half-open eyes, so I can practice modification on my own dolls too. I tried making an ear, and by the time I got one that looked sort of ear-like, it ended up being proportionally way too big, so I'm going to have to start over. Fortunately, I've got this anatomy book that I stole from my husband, so I can try to figure out the different pieces of the ear that I need to make. Ears are usually about from the top of the eyebrow down to the bottom of the nose, so I measure the faceplate to get a good size for that, and then I sketch out an ear shape. Drawing it out a few times helped me get a much better understanding of the shapes I was doing, and then going over those lines with a pen helped me figure out where I needed to break down the shapes. This outer part, the helix, is going to be one piece of clay. Then there's this little Y shape on the inside, so I'm going to try layering those onto a piece of clay that'll be a background, kind of. This is sort of how I got the other one to work out, so hopefully this is my second time making an ear using that method and it'll work out a little better. I'm sorry that my camera's so bouncy. I've got it set up on a table that I don't usually use for crafting since I'm still unpacking stuff, and it is not nearly as stable as I thought it was. The whole table bounces just from me touching it with my hands, so in the future I'm going to try to work on something a little bit more stable. My new studio has made good headway in coming together, but there's still a lot of the new house that is not unpacked. There are still a lot of rooms that have bad damage that need to be repaired. I think the next thing we're going to do is clean up the walls in the kitchen and try to paint them. But the kitchen is a huge room and the dining room is attached to it, so it's going to take a while. This ear turned out a lot better, and it looks like it's about the right size too. One thing that I always liked in BJDs was the idea of removable ears. Since I want to try to keep my work to a minimum for any faceplates that I sculpt, I really just want to be able to make different faces. I thought it would be cool to make slots in the head back that I could put different ears into. So the ears will actually be separate things. I'm going to try to make it so that they fit over the edge of the faceplate. But they'll be set into the head back, and that way I can switch out elf ears or pierced ears, not pierced ears, or other fantasy ears, I don't know. Either way, it should make it a lot easier because then anytime I want to create a new doll, I can just make a faceplate and I'll already have a head back and different types of ears that can be used with them. Ultimately, I don't know how long it'll take me to finish, but I really wanted to show where I was at with this, especially because that way everybody can be excited along with me as I make progress. I'll try to post more updates about this project on Instagram, so you can be sure to follow me there if you want to see more. Aside from that, he'll make a few appearances now and then on my channel. But that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Bye.